What's up, Cowboys Nation, and welcome back to the channel, your go-to home for everything Dallas Cowboys, from rumors and breaking updates to bold trade ideas that could shake the foundation of this team. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because today's news is going to blow your mind. We're diving deep into some red-hot rumors swirling around the star right now, and I'm telling you, if even one of these comes true, the Cowboys season could be flipped on its head. We're talking about the growing buzz around Kyle Pitts possibly being traded to Dallas, the recent and very concerning injury update on Donovan Wilson that could impact the safety rotation in a huge way, a looming potential cut that not many fans are talking about, and the latest whispers around Jalen Ramsey, yes, that Jalen Ramsey possibly being on the Cowboys' radar again. This is a full-throttle rumor breakdown, and as always, I'll give you the inside scoop, some honest analysis, and my unfiltered take on whether these moves make sense or are just smoke without fire. Let's kick things off with what might be the wildest yet most tantalizing rumor out there: Kyle Pitts to the Cowboys. Now, I know what you're thinking: why would the Falcons give up on a generational tight end talent this early? And why would the Cowboys, who already have Jake Ferguson and drafted Luke Schoonmaker, be in the market for another tight end? Well, let's unpack it, because this isn't just fan speculation. This is coming from multiple NFL insiders and beat reporters who are picking up on some chatter around Atlanta being willing to listen to offers on Pitts. Ever since Arthur Smith underutilized him in that offense, and now with a new regime and quarterback in Kirk Cousins, the Falcons might be retooling their offense and looking to get some draft capital back. Kyle Pitts, despite his physical gifts, has yet to truly break out. His rookie season showed promise, but injuries and inconsistent usage have dimmed the shine a bit, yet everyone around the league knows the talent is still there. The Cowboys have reportedly at least made a call. According to one source close to the situation, Dallas would be very interested in Pitts if the Falcons set a price that made sense. We're talking possibly a second-rounder and a conditional mid-round pick. Nothing firm has been reported yet, but when there's this much noise, you have to wonder. From a schematic standpoint, imagine what this would do to the Cowboys' offense. You line up Pitts with CeeDee Lamb on the outside, Brandon Cooks on the other, and have Pitts stretch the field down the seam with Ferguson working underneath. It's a matchup nightmare. Pitts gives Dak Prescott the big, athletic target over the middle that the team has frankly lacked since the days of prime Jason Witten. And let's be honest, no disrespect to Jake Ferguson, but Pitts is on another level as a weapon. He opens up the offense in ways Ferguson just can't, especially in the red zone where Dallas has struggled at times. Sure, the Cowboys are not known for making splashy trades, but this front office has been making more aggressive moves in recent years. Remember the Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks trades? This could be another calculated risk. The only question is, will Jerry Jones actually pull the trigger, and does Mike McCarthy see Pitts as a scheme fit for the West Coast system they're installing? Now let's shift gears to a more sobering development, and that's the injury update on Donovan Wilson. This one flew under the radar for a lot of fans, but insiders close to the team have confirmed that Wilson suffered what's being described as a lower leg setback during off-season workouts. Now, details are still coming in, but sources say the injury isn't necessarily season-ending, yet it could sideline him through a significant chunk of training camp. That's a big deal. Remember, Wilson signed a 3-year deal last offseason after leading the team in tackles in 2022. He's one of the emotional leaders of this defense, a guy who plays downhill and brings a physical edge that Dan Quinn loved and Mike Zimmer is hoping to harness in his own system. Losing him, even temporarily, could open up the door for someone like Wanya Thomas or Marquise Bell to earn more snaps, but here's where things get complicated. Wilson has a contract that's increasingly cuttable. According to Over the Cap, cutting Wilson post-June 1 would save the team over $3 million in cap space with a manageable dead cap hit. So the question is now not just how hurt is Wilson, but does the team see more long-term upside in their younger, cheaper options? I wouldn't normally raise the possibility of a veteran starter being cut, especially someone who's as respected in the locker room as Wilson. But when you combine the injury with his contract and the emergence of young talent on the back end, it's a conversation worth having. Plus, don't forget the Cowboys are going to need every dollar they can save heading into a critical offseason next year where they'll be negotiating with Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, and possibly even Dak Prescott. They've got to find cap space somewhere. Could Wilson be a surprise cut? I'm not predicting it yet, but it's a scenario that could play out if his health doesn't bounce back quickly. This training camp is going to be huge for him, and for those young safeties trying to carve out a bigger role. While we're on the topic of defensive backs, let's talk about the other monster name making the rounds in Cowboys rumor circles again, Jalen Ramsey. Yes, the same Jalen Ramsey who was reportedly a Cowboys target before he was traded from the Rams to the Dolphins. That deal is now looking a little uncertain for Miami, especially after Ramsey missed most of last season due to a torn meniscus. Now, reports out of Florida suggest that the Dolphins might be willing to part ways with the all-pro corner in a salary dump if the right deal comes along. And wouldn't you know it, Dallas just happens to be one of the few contending teams with a legitimate need at outside corner, and the cap space to make something happen. So, let's lay it out. The Cowboys already have Trayvon Diggs, who's recovering from his own ACL tear, and Darren Bland, who emerged as a breakout slot corner last season. Adding Ramsey would allow Bland to stay inside, Diggs to lock down one side, and Ramsey to bring veteran swagger and shutdown ability on the other. That's a trio that would immediately rank among the best secondaries in football if Ramsey is healthy. And yes, that's the big if. But if Dallas can swing a deal where Miami eats some of the salary or makes it a pick swap rather than giving up a premium draft asset, you have to think Will McClay and company would be interested. The Ramsey to Dallas smoke has been around for years now, and with Mike Zimmer now coordinating the defense, it might be the perfect time to bring in a player like Ramsey who understands how to play multiple coverage schemes and brings a fiery edge. It would be a bold move, but the type of one that could help this defense go from great to dominant. Now, let's talk implications. If Dallas were to somehow pull off a deal for both Kyle Pitts and Jalen Ramsey, you're talking about a complete transformation of the roster's strengths. On offense, Pitts gives them the athletic mismatch they've been missing, and on defense, Ramsey shores up the one position that arguably held them back in last year's playoff collapse: cornerback depth. Imagine a defense with Micah Parsons coming off the edge, Motzie Smith and Osa Odigizua plugging the middle, Leighton Vander Esch or Maris Lufau flying around at linebacker, and a secondary anchored by Diggs, Bland, and Ramsey. That's a nightmare for any NFC offense. Add in Pitts as a vertical threat for Dak, and suddenly you're cooking with gas. Of course, this all hinges on Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones being willing to break from their usual conservative tendencies and swing for the fences. But look, the NFC is wide open. The Eagles and 49ers remain strong, but both have their flaws. The Lions are ascending but unproven in the postseason. This could be the moment for Dallas to go all in, much like the Rams did a few years ago when they traded for Stafford and Ramsey and built a Super Bowl winner. And let's not forget, Mike McCarthy is coaching for his future. The heat is on after back-to-back playoff exits, and if he wants to keep his job, he may be pushing the Joneses to make some bold roster moves. As for Donovan Wilson's situation, keep your eyes on the OTA reports and training camp injury updates. If he's not practicing by mid-July, that's when the cut chatter will really heat up. The Cowboys like their young safeties, and in Zimmer's scheme, versatility is king. If Bell or Thomas shows they can play both safety spots and contribute on special teams, the front office may decide Wilson's cap hit is a luxury they can no longer afford. It would be a tough move emotionally. Wilson's story from late-round pick to starter is inspiring, but in the NFL, production and cap management are cold realities. Back to Kyle Pitts. If the Falcons really are fielding calls, you can bet that teams like the Chiefs, Ravens, and Bengals are interested too. But Dallas has something they don't: a burning need to prove they can win it all before the Super Bowl window slams shut. Pitts would thrive in the dome of at&T Stadium, and you better believe Dak would love to have a guy he can throw a jump ball to in the red zone who actually comes down with it. The key will be whether Atlanta is serious about moving him or just listening for a blockbuster offer. If it's the latter, Dallas will probably balk, but if they're motivated sellers, things could get spicy quickly. And don't forget the locker room angle with Ramsey. He and Diggs have a ton of mutual respect, and Ramsey has made no secret of his desire to play for a contender. He's not going to want to ride out the end of his career on a rebuilding roster. Dallas gives him a shot to compete for a ring, and it gives Dallas a veteran who can keep the secondary focused and elevate their level of play. It also gives Mike Zimmer someone who can mentor the younger corners and bring a winning pedigree. So where do we stand? We've got three major storylines: Kyle Pitts potentially becoming the Cowboys' biggest offensive weapon in years, Donovan Wilson battling a concerning injury with a contract that could make him expendable, and Jalen Ramsey possibly being back in play as a splash trade target. Each one has the potential to seriously alter the Cowboys' trajectory in 2025. And I'll tell you what, if the front office is serious about making this season count, they'll at least explore all three options. Thanks for rocking with me today, Cowboys Nation. This channel is all about bringing you real insight, real rumors, and honest reactions to everything happening around America's team. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you want the Cowboys to trade for Kyle Pitts? Would you take a risk on Jalen Ramsey even with the injury history? And is it time to move on from Donovan Wilson if the young safeties are ready to step up? I want to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more Cowboys news every single day, and share this with your fellow Cowboys fans. Let's keep the conversation going, and as always, stay loyal, stay loud, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Cowboys!